Hi, my name is Hamish, and I make videos on YouTube about the golden age of cinema, both in Hollywood and now also in Australia. And today I'd like to talk about the Best Actress category for the 1951 Oscars. Yes, I'm moving into Be Kind Rewind territory, but I'm not trying to do the same thing as she does. So I'm also a filmmaker. I mostly work in indie film, and one of my mentors is an actual Oscar winner. So I did 1 year. She asked me for my advice because often, Oscar winners are very busy and don't have time to watch films. So, that's why buzz is such an important part of the campaign for an Oscar win. So I just want to look. So I've just finished watching all the films from the 1951 Best Actress category, which to me is the most iconic. So let's go through all the films. The one I just watched the other day is Born Yesterday. So the ultimate winner, which of course went to Judy Holliday. Now, she had performed this role for over 1,000 performances on Broadway. And this is the film that made her a star. This is her most iconic role. Actually watching it, because it is one of those times where it's the rare occasion where comedy is acknowledged by the Academy. And typically when comedy is acknowledged by the Academy, it's not like a broad comedy, like it's actually quite a deep comedy. And Born Yesterday is quite deep. It is a kind of My Fair Lady Pygmalion story, but, in some ways it's also a story of, like it's sort of like that gangster story where basically Judy Holliday plays the girlfriend of a big-time gangster who's trying to move into Washington, and William Holden, who is this upright journalist, he's there to to mold her into someone who can fit into society, because Judy Holliday, she starts as this almost Lucille Ball, but New York this very uncouth kind of person who doesn't care one lick about the world of Washington. But then by the end of it, of course, that all changes. And I think what the Academy saw in her, now just so everyone knows, in case you don't, so when the Academy votes, not all people vote for all categories. So everyone votes for the best picture, but the Oscar winners of a certain category vote for that category. So acting votes for acting, directors vote for directing, and so on. So, editors vote for editing, costume designers for costume designers. So maybe that's why the Best Actress or the Best Actor awards tend to go to actors playing actors. Anyway, so Judy Holliday does it. Obviously she's done it like on Broadway for 1,000 performances. Like she knows this performance like the back of her hand, and she takes you on this great journey. And of course, the comedy is right down there, but there's a lot of pathos, and you really see the character changing. And I think maybe that's what the Academy saw in that. So moving on, let's go to Gloria Swanson. So again, Nana, even though she had an entire career in silent pictures, her most iconic role is Norma Desmond, ready for her close-up in Sunset Boulevard. I mean, talk about a film that again, it's her most iconic role. It's one of the most iconic films ever made, and so many quotable lines that have lived on far beyond, I am big. It's the pictures that got small. And, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Like, there's so many quotable quotes in that film. And William Holden, again, now for people who haven't watched it, obviously, Sunset Boulevard is this kind of hack screenwriter who literally crashes into the dilapidated mansion of a former star of the silent screen who is wanting to make her comeback. And there is a sort of a kind of there are like two love triangles going on at the same time, and it's quite, again. So now people don't think it's a comedy, but this is definitely a black comedy. You could argue it's noir. It's very like over the top, but I don't know, is it a drama? Yes, it's dramatic, but I wouldn't say it's a straight drama. Like, to me, it's just too funny. This is a comedy, but again, one with a lot of guts, a lot of meat on it. So I think what held Gloria Swanson back is maybe people associating her with the role too much. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to be yourself on camera, as you can see. Like, I'm playing a heightened version of myself as, now, so I'm not like being, 100% me. And so, to be, quote, yourself on camera is not an easy thing to do. But look, it's a iconic role, defining role. Like, she was considered Norma Desmond. I mean, another thing that may be not in her favour with regards to getting the nomination is that I did hear she wasn't terribly well liked. I mean, perhaps that could have been for all the money that got wasted with Queen Kelly, which never got finished, and by the time it was, even close to being finished, sound had come and no one cared about these big budget silent films anymore. So, maybe there's a little bit of sour grapes with her, but, there is definitely, I can see why someone might say she was robbed. Okay, so moving on to Caged. Now, another film I only watched in the last 12 months. Now this is not Eleanor Parker's most iconic role, even though this is an iconic film in that, this basically kicked off the women in prison genre. So Cage, like anytime you watch, a women in prison drama, be it, Orange is the New Black, be it, Wentworth Prisoner, Cell Block H, you're basically watching what was, the mould that was created in Caged. The young, sort of somewhat innocent, like, she was more of an accessory, and then over the course of the film you see her become a bit of a hardened criminal. And like Ace in the Hole, like, this film has lost none of its punch. Like, boom! Oh my goodness! Like, as a movie, my goodness! Like, I would put it right up there with Ace in the Hole, in that it's a film that, like, it is really watchable. Like, maybe Ace in the Hole I probably can't watch again, but Cage I could see myself watching again. Like, there is a certain fun to it, even though it's like, it's a devastating movie. And obviously, so Hope Emerson, who was also nominated for creating that, what would in Prisoner would be the freak, the nasty warden, and the evil warden, and then but yeah, I mean, it's one of those films that, like, every single one of those women, is incredible, including Agnes Moorehead. In terms of Eleanor Parker herself, again, like Judy Holliday, you really see this incredible transformation as an actress, and I can see why she was nominated. This was her first nomination, which, as Be Kind Rewind often points out, the Academy likes to see giving an award as an investment in the future, sort of like a Best New Artist category for the Grammys, even though that's a pretty cursed category because it's kind of hard to know like who is going to keep going. So let's keep going. So yeah, of course, obviously, I will say though, Eleanor Parker, who got 3 more nominations, but her most iconic role is obviously the Baroness in The Sound of Music, which is of course a wonderful film, and she really only gets like a small moment when she gives up the fellow to Maria. In that moment, you really feel that pathos. You can see why, yes, she's an Academy-nominated actress. So I'll save till later what my pick would have been, what I would have voted for. But anyway, let's keep going. So, of course, the granddaddy of them all is All About Eve, which got 14 nominations, but I think only took home 3. Was, I think, Best Writing, Best Picture, and Best Supporting Actor for George Sanders. Now, the trouble with this film, really, and to sidebar, I think this would have been Marilyn's chance for an Oscar within her lifetime. Really what I think this film deserved was maybe Best Casting or Best Ensemble. I believe Best Casting is a category that's coming into the Oscars this year, but so I would go, if you think back to films past, because the SAG Awards does have an award for Best Ensemble, and I think for a film like this, where there's, even though Bette Davis is the captain of the ship, the film is technically all about Eve, hence the title. So yeah, it's hard to say who is the lead actor, who is the lead actress in this film. Sorry, I mean there's not really a lead actor, even though maybe George Merrill, but because in the Best Supporting Actress category for the same year, you've got Celeste Holm and Thelma Ritter also nominated in that category for All About Eve. So I think the reason why All About Eve didn't walk away with a film, and maybe why perhaps Bette Davis campaigned behind the scenes for Joan Crawford not to be nominated when they did or Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. In some ways, I kind of feel like, maybe if it is an actor category rather than an ensemble category, I do feel that maybe they should be nominated together rather than separately. So it's not, so I mean the school of thought is that the vote was split between Anne Baxter and Bette Davis, and even Anne Baxter said later in life that she should have acquiesced and gone into the Best Supporting category, and they probably would have both won. But I mean, as I mentioned before, I haven't even said what All About Eve is about. I mean, let's say okay, so for Anne Baxter, I might say that it's not her most iconic role, even though it kind of is, like Eve Harrington. I would probably say, to me, her most iconic role would be in the Ten Commandments, as the Pharaoh's sister. And anyway, you don't want to know too much about the way pharaohs work, but yeah, so I would say that would be her most iconic role, but it is a very iconic role for Anne Baxter. I think everyone knows an Eve Harrington type as like if you say like, oh, you're an Eve Harrington type, you're kind of saying that someone is trying to, crawl into a bigger star's role. And I would argue now, someone might say, okay, Baby Jane is perhaps now one of her more iconic roles. But to me, Margot Channing is the Bette Davis role, even though personally I think her greatest performance is in The Little Foxes. But, Bette Davis wasn't always nominated or awarded for her best roles, which is kind of a funny thing, right? Anyway, Margot Channing is definitely her most iconic role. And again, I think while some, including Tallulah Bankhead herself thought that Bette Davis was doing a parody of Tallulah, many people did think that Bette was playing herself when she... So, of course, All About Eve is about... it's a backstage drama. But, again, it's very funny. Although I would actually say, even though it's very funny, I would say it's a drama, whereas I wouldn't say it was a black comedy. Anyway, that's just my opinion, and I'm entitled to have an opinion. And you're entitled to disagree with it. So please put your disagreements down below. Anyway, of course, All About Eve is the story of a, the grand diva of prima donna of Broadway, who is now getting a little bit long in the tooth, and Eve Harrington is who sets herself as the kind of the big fan, but the fan who wants to become the big star. On a personal effect, I did the Stephen Elliott video recently. One of the reasons why I don't really want to meet him is that I don't want to be Eve Harrington. That's, anyway. If you, to me, anyway, out of the two of them, I think Bette Davis really captures, it's again, like Gloria Swanson, she has those great lines that live forever, fasten my seatbelts, it's going to be a bumpy night. And I don't know, maybe a favourite of mine is all little bees busy working, I don't know. Anyway, I just love Bette Davis's delivery of these wonderful lines. But the thing is, Anne Baxter, she is like the straight man to, the sort of the comedy duo, and she is really that anchor, and she's got that virtuoso, as the guy said. She's fantastic herself. You really see her starting, and you believe her as just this fan who ultimately is lying about her past. She goes from being the wide-eyed innocent to the killer. Where obviously the Thelma Ritter character who always sees through her, but at first you're on the side of everyone else. It's like, oh, come on, Thelma, you just don't say that. But, obviously Thelma is right. Okay, so sorry, All About Eve was a bit of a mess, but anyway, basically, in some ways, you could argue that for every single actress, this was their most career-defining, iconic role. I mean, even if, like in the case of Eleanor Parker, even if it wasn't career-defining like The Sound of Music was for her, it wasn't. It was an absolutely iconic film that set the mold for future films. So what a hard year. That's what makes, when you look at maybe the Oscars today, that's what makes it so boring now, because, yeah, I mean, who cares who wins, right? I mean, at least for me. But, with these guys, you've got these, all of them have a reason to win. That just literally, people mouth this off, pay lip service to it, but just to be nominated in this year, that is the award in of itself. To be in such an iconic group of women, yeah, what could be better? Who I personally would have voted for is probably Eleanor Parker, but am I just saying that because it's I like to go for the underdog, and no one seems to be kind of, rooting for, that's a weird thing to say as an Australian, but anyway, no one seems to be saying yeah, Eleanor Parker should have won. Everyone is saying oh, Bette Davis should have won, or Norma Desmond should have. See, that's why she didn't win. Gloria Swanson should have won. But Born Yesterday was an absolutely iconic film in of itself, and Anne Baxter deserves her credit. I know it is hard. People love the fireworks, so it's hard to, that's why I think Bette Davis was nominated over Joan Crawford in Baby Jane, because Joan Crawford, she's the anchor. Bette Davis was the fireworks, but those anchor roles, even though they aren't fireworks, are just as important. If you've got two firecrackers going, it's just going to be boring. So, I don't know. Look, at the time, I think momentum was with Judy Holliday. Now, not because of, say, okay, yeah, I think everyone's right. I think, I do think the awards were split. I think the other thing against Anne Baxter and Bette Davis winning is that they'd already won before. Anne Baxter for Razor's Edge and Bette Davis for Deception and Jezebel. So, it is sort of at that point you're fulfilling the promise of, that sort of, that stamp of approval. Whereas, say, Judy Holliday, now, because there was this huge campaign, so for her, in order to get that award, in order for her to get that role, apparently, so she got a small role where she did incredibly well in Adam's Rib, which for some reason was nominated in 51, not 50. I guess maybe the cutoff period was a bit weird. But in any case, there was a lot of momentum around Judy Holliday steals the show from, Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. And there was actually Oscar buzz for that role, which is interesting because it's never nominated. So in some ways, I sort of wonder, I feel like she should have already won as Best Supporting for Adam's Rib, maybe in the 1950 Oscar, even though for some reason Adam's Rib is in the 51 Oscars. So I would probably say maybe, like Bette Davis for Deception, which was really an award of human bondage. There is sometimes that sort of build up. But look, it's a great role. It's a great performance in its own right. The thing is, they all deserve to win. That's the trouble with that category in that year. They all deserve to win. There is an argument for all of them, and but I can see Anne and Bette being knocked out purely for the fact that they already have an Oscar, and again for the vote being split. To me, Gloria Swanson, because perhaps she wasn't terribly liked in the industry, I think that's what was playing against her, as well as the fact that people thought she's just playing herself. People thought it was a documentary more than an actual role, which really does leave Judy and Eleanor. And I guess Eleanor just didn't have that Oscar buzz. So going back to what I was talking about before, a lot of voters are busy. Okay, yes, there are the ones who can go and watch all the films and make an informed decision, but a lot of these people are still working. Obviously, this is something they do for free, right? So buzz is very important. So, maybe there's buzz generated and then they're motivated to go and see that film. Then they're, yes, okay, I'm going to vote for that person. And, Judy Holliday seems like someone that everybody really liked. I mean, can you believe, Katharine Hepburn campaigning against herself in order to create buzz around Judy Holliday so that she was a big enough star so that she could play the role in the film that she wanted to, that she had created on Broadway, which people don't always get to do. Obviously, Julie Andrews didn't get to play My Fair Lady because she wasn't a big enough star at that point. So, but Mary Poppins made her a huge star, and obviously Sound of Music. Excuse me. So it's a very real thing. Like with Gypsy, I'm forgetting her name, but there's no business like show business. That lady, she didn't get to play the role that she created with Gypsy in the film. It went to Rosalind Russell. It's a tough thing, how to, obviously, Bette Davis was, mostly famous for doing the film versions of roles that Tallulah Bankhead made famous on Broadway. So, there is a very real fear that she won't be able to transfer into the play the same role in the film version. So I will have to do a separate video on Judy Holliday. Okay, so I don't know. I think if it was up to me, Judy Holliday would have won an award for Best Supporting in Adam's Rib, and let's give it to her. Let's give it to Bette Davis. She deserved it because I love Bette Davis. But I don't know, my heart really wants to give it to Eleanor Parker, but that could be because she's the underdog, and if she had gotten it, would have I been making the same review saying, Judy Holliday should have got it? I don't know. Yeah, look, they all deserved it. They were all fantastic, and I think no matter who won, I think you would be making this same video going other people deserved it. All right, well, thank you. If you want to watch more videos like this, please subscribe and check out some of my original stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Mwah.